Over 1,000 lawsuits pending against solar finance companies. That's on top of over 100 solar company bankruptcies in the past year alone. How did we get here? And will the solar industry survive? I'm going to be answering those questions in today's video, and make sure you watch till the end because I'm going to be giving you my take on where the industry is going from here and what the solar business of the future will look like. The smarter way to go solar. All right, now in today's video, we're answering the question, how did we get here? And more specifically talking about how did we get here as a solar industry where we're seeing so many businesses come apart and so many businesses fail on top of a number of lawsuits against solar finance companies. Now, I got a call last week from a lawyer in Texas who told me that he has over 1,000 pending lawsuits against solar finance companies for various issues, including non-performance of the contractor, homeowners that have lost their warranty coverage, as well as dealer fees that were charged to customers without those fees being properly disclosed. But the solar industry wasn't always like this. So how did we get here? Now, back in the day, when I got started in solar, it was a very small community of people that I would say they were all solar enthusiasts for one reason or another. Of course, myself, I was more into solar for emergency preparedness reasons. And so we were using the technology to power off-the-grid properties. Could be a hunting cabin, could be a survival bunker, or just a property that didn't have access to utility power, and so we used solar panels and batteries to provide power to those structures. Of course, you also had those who were part of the environmentalist community, right? They were just into solar because they believed in wanting to save the planet, wanted to lower their carbon footprint, and basically they were motivated to acquire solar power technology. Didn't really have to be pushed on them or sold to them. Of course, back then, the prices were very high for solar power systems, especially for solar and battery systems. So it's not something that you were buying because it was necessarily going to pay for itself or be a good investment for you. Pretty much it was people that were investing in solar because they believed in the technology, or they believed philosophically in being green or being energy independent, and they were willing to pay a price premium to get that. Now, back in 2014, 2015, we started seeing a lot of low-cost solar equipment coming on the market, which dropped the cost of a fully installed solar system to about a third of what it was just 5 or 10 years prior. And this made solar affordable for a much larger portion of the population. Also at that time, we had pervasive net metering programs. Now, of course, with net metering programs, it means that basically you can trade energy back and forth with the power company at the same rate. So, for example, if you're powering your home with solar panels during daylight hours, whatever extra energy your solar panels are producing, you could just send that back to the power company, building up credits on your account. And then during the evening hours when the solar wasn't producing anymore, you could just pull the credits back in from the power company and they would give you a full credit. Every kilowatt hour you send them during the day, you can pull it back at night for no penalty. So this made the solar investment pretty compelling. And if you could afford to pay cash for the system, basically you could get a full turnkey contractor installed solar system, and the system would pay for itself in about 5 to 10 years, depending on where you live and what your electric rates are. Now, this is when the solar financing companies got into the game. And looking back at 2017 is the first time I got exposed to a solar financing company. And basically what these companies allow you to do was finance the entire cost of your solar panel installation with a low interest fixed rate loan with a low monthly payment. And the idea here was the system would be large enough to cover your electric bill usage. And so basically the entire cost of the loan or the entire cost of making the monthly payment to your solar finance company would be covered by the amount that you're saving off your electric bill. And of course, that actually worked if you could lock into a net metering program, and of course, if the system remained healthy and remained functional. But there was a small detail in the fine print known as the dealer fee. And the dealer fees are basically fees that the financing companies charge to contractors, and the contractors have to pass those fees on to homeowners in the form of a higher installation price. So for example, back in 2017, you could do a dividend finance 4.99% fixed rate loan, and it carried a 7% dealer fee, meaning the finance company was going to take 7% off the top of the loan amount before any cash was paid to the contractor. But it was small enough at that time that the contractor could absorb that, still pass on a somewhat competitive price to the homeowner, and basically be able to offer the homeowner a no-cost solar or a free solar system, because again, the idea here is what you're saving as a homeowner, what you're saving off your electric bill more than covers your monthly loan payment. Now, this opportunity gave birth to what we now call the dealer EPC model. And what that meant is that the contractor, now wanting to be able to offer as many of these systems as possible, began to recruit third-party sales and marketing companies to go out and sell solar systems and to get homeowners approved for these solar financing loans. In many kinds, these were separate companies than the actual contracting business that did the permitting and the engineering and the physical installation. So when you hear the term EPC, EPC stands for engineering, permitting, and construction. That's the actual contractor that does the work. And then you would have a partner, sometimes called a dealer or a sales org, and that company's job is just to go out and get customers signed up. Once the customer signed up, the contractor would take it from there. Now, this started somewhat of a gold rush mentality in the solar industry. And we saw salespeople coming into solar from other industries like door-to-door alarm system sales or maybe automobile sales, because they thought there was tons and tons of money to make in solar. And then the sales org had the opportunity to mark up that price and pass on a higher retail price to the homeowner or to the end user. And that margin between the EPC cost, which is what we call a red line in the industry, so the margin between that red line and then whatever price the dealer or the salesperson was able to get the homeowner to sign up, that margin became the salesperson's commission. And there was huge commission potential in solar. Because the cost of these systems was so high anyway, the salesperson figured, well, if the system cost $30,000, what would it hurt to tack another $7,000, $8,000, or $9,000 or $10,000 on top of that, bundle it into a solar loan, and get the homeowner to sign up for that? After all, if you just look at the monthly payment that the homeowner had to pay is still about equal to, or maybe even a little bit less than, what they were going to pay to the power company anyway. So the homeowner didn't really feel that higher cost, and the salesman was able to offer a no cost out-of-pocket product with a huge commission on each deal. Now, this gave birth to what we call the sales bro culture today, where you had large teams of neighborhood door-to-door canvassers that would basically go through an entire neighborhood convincing every homeowner to sign up for solar, anyone that had decent sunlight hitting their roof, convincing everyone to sign up for solar because it was a way to lower your electric bill long term. And of course, in theory, that all would have worked great, assuming that everybody got approved for net metering and all these systems functioned properly throughout the entire 25-year life of the system. But because of the greed and because of all this commission potential that was there, a lot of the sales organizations started using deceptive practices. For example, they would dress their representative up in high visibility vests and construction caps and basically pose as if they were employees of the local power company. And they would say things like, hey, we're putting in a solar system in your area here. We want to see if you're qualified to sign up for the new renewable energy program. If so, we could reduce your electric bill by 20% or more. And they would never disclose that they were actually a salesperson working on behalf of an independent private contractor, where of course they have a large financial interest in you signing up for that agreement. It was more just framed as, well, we're just going to see if you qualify, and if you qualify, we could lower your monthly payment by X amount. I mean, a lot of times these homeowners were signing up, they didn't even realize they were signing up for a loan to purchase a system from a contractor. They just thought they were signing up for a reduction of their monthly electric bill. Now, of course, the salespeople were incentivized to use these high-pressure tactics to get that homeowner to sign up right then and there, not to take their time, seek multiple quotes, or do more research about how the solar program or how the net metering program worked. And of course, there was also a non-disclosure of key terms in the contract in many cases, especially the issue of dealer fees. Now again, dealer fees are fees that financing companies charge to contractors, and the contractors have to pass those fees along to homeowners in the form of a higher install price. But if the homeowner looks at the proposal, typically they don't see anything labeled dealer fee. They just think they're paying for materials and labor not realizing that the material and labor price is inflated to cover that extra cost of the dealer fee. And that's why if you choose to go solar and if you choose to finance your solar power system, I recommend working with a traditional FDIC-insured lender where you're going to get full disclosure of exactly what your cost of financing is based on the Truth in Lending disclosure guidelines. Now, everything was going great in the late 20-teens and the early 2020s. Interest rates were low, cost for solar materials was relatively low, and we had net metering programs all across the country. So you had hundreds of thousands of homeowners that signed up to go solar with these zero down or zero out of pocket solar loan programs. Now, in 2022, everything started to turn around. In response to higher consumer price inflation, the Federal Reserve began an aggressive regimen of interest rate increases, which of course increased the interest rate that solar financing companies had to charge on their solar loans. So the whole sales proposition of trading out your electric bill with a solar bill, well, it was harder to achieve that if you had to pay a higher rate of interest on your solar financing. On top of that, we started to see higher rates of contractor defaults and higher dealer fees that the financing companies had to pay to the contractors. Now, I should note here that in the event of a contractor business failure, of which there were many. Again, there were a lot of people that got into this industry that shouldn't have been in this industry and just had sort of this gold rush mentality that, solar, there's so much money to be made in solar. But a lot of these businesses just didn't manage their accounting properly and they ended up going out of business. But in many cases, that means that the homeowner has got a system on their roof, they've got a monthly payment that they owe to the loan company. In many cases, the loan company then had to find some other contractor to provide maintenance or provide repairs on those systems if the contractor who did the original installation went out of business. And so we saw dealer fees rise from as little as 7% back in 2017 up to as high as 30 and 40% at the end of 2022. That means in some cases, 40% of the total loan amount, the total amount you would be borrowing as a homeowner, is just taken right off the top and given to the finance company before the contractor is paid the first dollar, meaning that that contractor now has to charge you a much higher price to be able to pay off that dealer fee before he then has to go and purchase materials and pay for labor and engineering and permitting and the other direct project costs. But there were a number of solar contractors that went out of business. As soon as these sales slowed down, when the interest rates went up, the largest example I can think of is Power Home Solar, also known as Pink Energy. They declared bankruptcy in November of 2022, and at the time, they had over $30 million advanced to them by one of the largest solar financing companies at the time, Sunlight Financial. Now, when I say they had money advanced to them, basically this is money that the finance company lent to the contractor to help them cash flow for expenses getting through the project, where it could be that up to 50% of the total loan amount got advanced to the contractor prior to the work ever being completed or prior to the system being made operational. And so when Power Home Solar went bankrupt, they basically lost $30 million of Sunlight Financial's cash that had been advanced to them. And of course, I think that's a big factor that led to Sunlight Financial's bankruptcy about a year later. Now, on top of that, we saw a trend away from one-for-one net metering. Now, again, net metering is where you have a two-way relationship with the power company. You can buy and sell back and forth. But what we saw, particularly in California with their so-called NEM 3.0, is now instead of having an equal one-for-one trade back and forth of electricity, now you may have to send the power company 4, 5, or 6 kilowatt hours of excess electricity during daytime hours for every one that you get to pull back. And that means that now the payback for solar just doesn't make sense for as many people, or you'd have to take on the additional cost of installing battery storage with your solar so you have a place to store your extra energy. You don't have to sell it back to the power company at a discounted rate. But again, that's now pushing up the overall price and the overall monthly payment of your solar and storage system. The bottom line is when things slowed down, we had a number of contractors that were on shaky financial ground that ended up going out of business. And of course, that means that you now have hundreds of thousands or millions of abandoned solar systems that are out there. Systems that were sold under the pretense of a 25-year warranty, 25-year power production guarantee. In many cases, the homeowner took out a long-term loan to pay for that system, And in many cases, they're going to still have that monthly bill that comes in from the solar finance company, even if their system is broken and the contractor who did the install is not in business even to make repairs. And so what we're seeing is the finance company becomes the target of choice. I mean, after all, if you took out a loan for, let's say, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for a solar panel system that's on your roof that's not working, and then you're still getting an electric bill, how enthusiastically are you going to want to pay your monthly solar finance payment? And that's what we're seeing is a lot of homeowners just call the finance company and say, hey, look, I don't want to make any more payments on this system until you send somebody out here to fix it. Now, again, there are thousands of lawsuits pending across the country right now for people that were sold solar power systems with financing under the premise that they had a 25-year warranty on the complete system, labor, as well as a 25-year power production guarantee. And of course, now we're seeing is that these financing companies are scrambling to get service teams in place and on the road to actually be able to maintain that fleet of systems, where originally the idea was that the contractor who did the original install would just provide warranty service at its own expense. Well, if that company's out of business, it can't send anybody out to make repairs. The finance company is now sort of on the hook to find a solution. So where do we go from here? Well, I think one thing that you're going to see change is that the solar financing company is going to be the company that really offers you the solar system as a homeowner. Again, and the reason is because if you sign up as a homeowner directly with a contractor, you don't know if that contractor is going to be in business 5 or 10 years from now. And so if you're signing up for let's say a 20-year or a 25-year financial obligation to make payments on that system, then it would make sense that the finance company becomes ultimately the responsible party. And so even if the contractor that did the original panel installation is out of business, as the finance company would be on your responsibility to go and get another contractor or get another service provider that can maintain that fleet of installed systems that are out there. Now, of course, if you're a homeowner and you're looking to hire a contractor, I still recommend the small regional contractors, family-owned. These are really going to be the best bet for you long-term. Now, again, you had so many people that got into the solar industry because they had this sort of short-term gold rush mentality. They tried to ramp up their sales as fast as possible. Many of them entered dozens of different states all at the same time. Again, chasing this high commission potential, this high profit potential, just to see the whole thing unravel. And unfortunately, in the process, damaged a lot of roofs, and in even a few handful of cases, caused some electrical fires because of doing quick and dirty, shoddy work. But it also means that there's a huge opportunity for solar service companies. In fact, for those of you who haven't seen my previous video I did with Nick Sherman entitled Solar is a Service Business, go back and watch that previous video where we talk about this opportunity in detail. But what Nick says is basically the solar company of the future is going to look very similar to the HVAC installation service business of today, where it's no longer going to be this one-time system purchase with a 25-year lifetime guarantee, but rather it's going to look like a service business where you will pay them on an hourly basis or on a per site visit basis to maintain and operate that system for you. And that's just part of the cost of owning a solar system, much like you might think of your HVAC system today. Every year or two, it may need a tune-up, it may need service or repairs, and that would be on you as a homeowner to maintain that. And then finally, if you do choose to use financing for your solar power system, I recommend going with a traditional FDIC-insured lender where you're going to have full disclosure on exactly how much you're borrowing, what the rate is, if there are any fees, what those fees are, and not these convoluted solar loans that have huge dealer fees and also often require this kind of creative financing for those companies even to remain in business. So this has been a discussion of how did we get here as a solar industry, all the bankruptcies, the lawsuits, the business failures, what got us to this point and where do we go going forward? Folks, I believe solar has a very bright future going forward. The technology has proven itself. It's just that we seem to always want to get into these sort of creative financing schemes in America. The rest of the world is not like this. If you go to Australia, you go to Europe, Africa, most people are just buying their systems outright in cash, and they don't have to deal with all of these funny and exotic financial products. Here in the States, if you can pay cash, that's great. If you want to finance, again, use a traditional FDIC insured lender that's going to give you full disclosure on what the terms of that financing is. Well, I thank you all for spending some more time on the Solar Surge channel. Of course, if you're out there, if you're in the process of looking at different solar panel or battery options for your home, if you need to get a price quote, or maybe you already have a quote and you need to get a comparison, or get connected with a qualified contractor in your area, as always, you can use the link below. Reach out to us there. You can schedule a call with a Solar Surge expert, or just use the free online calculator tool so you can see how much solar and battery storage costs in your area. Of course, hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you're getting good value from these videos here. And until next time, as always, I'm Joe Ordia here, encouraging you to get prepared and be empowered. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.